Well, good morning. Like everybody else in the YouTube pipe community, I am smoking Cornell and Deal's Star of the East. It's a very, very full flavored English blend this early in the morning. A little bit of a shift for me. I've been mostly smoking sort of burley based all day smokes, comfort blends, that sort of thing. Because I need a lot of comfort because we're living in the end times. So I grew up around first responders, right? Like my dad and all of his friends were all first responder types, firefighters, EMTs, that sort of thing. And that's a good way to grow up if you want to be a really paranoid adult. Because I was slightly outside the norm of readiness of the way that I thought about the world. Also, some of my first work, my professional life was as a reporter for a small town newspaper where we covered car wrecks, right? So a lot of my formative experiences had a lot to do with like teeth, hair, and eyeballs all over the road. Because of all this in college, my friends nicknamed me Captain Safety, which I guess there's worse nicknames you can have coming out of college. But then in like every workplace, I was always the guy that check with Max. He's got a trauma bandage in his pocket. He got a paper cut or whatever. And that's sort of the long and short of how I became this figure in my group of friends. I'm the one that is thought to be a prepper. I'm not a prepper. I will admit, in my younger days, I did go a little bit overboard on the camo side of things. I had more guns than I do now. I had more gear than I do now. But I've never been the kind of prepper that you're thinking about when I said prepper. Maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. I say all that to say that now, in 2017, with the issues of our day, these same people that made fun of me all those years ago are writing me emails and saying, "So, what kind of stuff should I keep in my car in case somebody sets off a nuke over one of the tunnels in New York?" I don't know, like your will. But people. I've had multiple people saying, "What should I be doing to be ready in these times?" By the way, you might want to have your will laminated too, because your blood's just going to be splattered everywhere. And the ash and like all that falling dust is all going to be radioactive. You're definitely going to need to just 409 scrub that will right off. Well, now that I'm blogging under a pseudonym and I'm no longer associated with my public persona, I feel a little more comfortable answering these questions at large. And I'm not an expert, but I do have a bit of experience in overreacting. If there's one thing I can say for myself, though, it's that I overreact less than other people on the internet, which I think is a pretty low bar to set. But, I run an outdoors channel now, right? And not really. That's still not how I feel about it. I feel like it's a pipe channel that has outdoor content. But then we also played Minecraft, so maybe it's like a nerd gaming channel. Whatever. I'm outdoors a lot. And it seems like every YouTuber who ever goes outside makes a bunch of content that is hashtagged survivalism and prepping and zombie apocalypse. And that irks me. Because I think that it's almost like being outdoors is like the modern equivalent of poetry. And if you want to make men interested in poetry, you have to sell it as like, battle poetry. Or if you want to like make fat internet dudes interested in the outdoors, you have to tell them that they need to learn about the outdoors so they can survive a zombie apocalypse. In addition to that, we now live in a time when you can get more information about more stupid guns than ever before. I like guns. I'm a big, I'm Captain Firearm USA. But I'm a little uncomfortable with it, with my friends asking me, "Hey, I wanna be ready," but every time I Google how to be ready, all I get is, 50 videos on which AR-15 I should buy. The other thing is, we're talking about catastrophe here, right? Like, you know, when we plan for these scenarios, we're never planning for like, oh, I've got the flu and I can't leave the house. It's nice to have some Gatorade on hand. We're planning for like, oh, a nuke goes off. There's an outbreak of Ebola, something like that. Asteroid strike. And I think there's a fundamental. I think the people that plan, and I mean the people, all of us, when we plan for stuff like that, we're missing something very fundamental. And there's a spiritual aspect to the idea that we're living in the end times that everybody misses. I say all that to say, I worked very hard on writing probably a superfluous blog post because no one ever reads blogs ever again. I'm not even sure that people in 2017 can read more than like 160 characters at a time. Anyway, I wrote a post. It's live on Gribley'sFolly.com right now, and it is called "On Readiness, Gribley's Guide to Dying Well." I like to think of Gribley's Folly as like clickbait with gravitas. So if you're into that sort of thing, hope you'll check it out. I'm probably going to talk about it a little bit more as we go forward on this channel. To be honest, the fishing videos are a lot of fun to make. And they're kind of all the same. You go out, you catch some fish. I do have some fishing news, and I'll probably post about soon. A little bit of a gear review, actually. That's the other thing, man. Prepping is all about gear. It's like, what kind of gear do you own? How many boxes of ramen noodles do you have in your basement? That sort of thing. And that's not how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going to starve to death because I didn't stockpile enough ramen. But if ramen is the only thing keeping you alive, are you sure you want to keep living? Lastly, as sort of a preview to the blog post, y'all, zombies don't exist. I'm going to say that again. Zombies don't exist. And if they did exist, they would always win. They would always win. Anything that doesn't require actual calories consumed to be able to like energize itself and go attack people, it's going to win every time. There's no reason to prepare for a zombie apocalypse in any way other than just, I don't know, getting your affairs in order and preparing to be a zombie. As you can see, I have that base covered. My clothes are already ratty and torn and a little bit rotten, so I will fit right in. My next step in that plan is to make my teeth look like the advertisements on the tobacco tins. There's definitely some good zombie content there. But, I think zombies as a trope are so popular because we are distanced from our fellow human beings. And the common thread I see among preppers, internet preppers, is that sort of distance. It's me in my bunker and them out there. And my job is to shoot as many of them in the head as I can before they get to me. And I think that's a really unfortunate addition to the idea of readiness. As I said, I grew up around first responders, and the ethos there was, yeah, you might be really paranoid. You might carry a knife. I'll never forget this. One of my dad's friends always carried a knife that would be capable of cutting himself out of a seatbelt because he had worked a lot of wrecks. So you might have that thought in your head. Most people never think about stuff as gruesome as that. What if you need to cut yourself out of a seatbelt or someone else in your car? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. But the ethos there was always to help people, not to call them zombies and shoot them. Anyway, I deal with all of this and more with some actual prepping advice in the post on Gribley'sFolly.com. I feel weird doing self-promotion, but I wanted to. I worked hard on the post, and I wanted to make sure it gets, at least double the readers that all my other posts get. So if I get 2 readers, the first one's kind of me. So anyway, I'll be happy. Thanks for following along. More videos coming. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.